They can get the strength that they wanted from the SF without giving away what the game plan is here. So, uh, just see that play in terms of a position 5 hero, though. Well, we're still kind of back where we were before when we were talking about this. The Chikiro's kind of a no-go, but they could grab the Crystal Maiden. We could see maybe more of a defensive support here as well, just in case the Riki does become a problem. A hero that can maybe just purge away some of the lockdown, make the dart less of a threat, but Infinity aren't quite sure, because that is the other downside. If you go for a defensive support, then the Tiny at the 4, or I guess even really at the 2, is really operating by himself.
Yeah, and instead of having maybe an immediate dispel like perhaps the Abaddon, they just decide to go for the easy hero and another lane dominating hero and a lane that we've already seen Infinity run before if they need to, and depending on what Wildcard choose for their offlaner, Shadow Fiend Undying doesn't really lose too many lanes, and Parker will have a phenomenal start. And I do wonder now what they will pick for Devi. And again, they're gonna keep us guessing because if you were just looking at the draft, you'd probably say, "Oh, Devi's gonna be the Dawnbreaker, and he's gonna be laning with Rubik." And if it was versus Shadow, if it wasn't versus Shadow Fiend Undying, then maybe I would agree with you. But I really think that that might be a lane that they look to dodge. I also think maybe they had a Zeus pick right there in the same position they go for the TB, and now Zeus is banned out, so kind of unfortunate timing. But I think at the very least, TB fairly decent matchup into the Shadow Fiend, but also will be able to zone that Tidehunter at those early levels, and then eventually rotate into the jungle while still having lane pressure with those Conjured Illusions.
Not a bad choice for the wild card side. We'll just have to see, well, really how well the farm comes into Yuma's hands and whether there's any pressure, as both sides focusing on the middle lane here with the Bat Rider ban. And well, I don't know. I mean, you were talking up the Parker Shadow Fiend with the Undying in this situation, so wild card honestly might be going in the wrong direction. I suppose technically speaking, if the Shadow Fiend is going at the 1 and the Tiny plays the 4, then these bans are on point. But you really have no way of telling at this point. Wildcard really just have to take their best guess.
Yeah, and I think that's for and where Infinity probably want another big BKB mid laner, somebody that's going to play for that timing, something that the Bat Rider would have really done a good job at fulfilling, but also where is there a possibility that we see the Leshrat come out, which has been kind of idly sitting
Hmm.
on the other side of the meta where nobody's touched it in quite a bit. People though still experimenting with Bloodstone and figuring out some pretty darn ridiculous stuff. Still amazed that Razor has not broken out onto the scene just yet. With, I'm sure, how many clips have become popular on Twitch, because that hero's kind of dumb. Razor's kind of broken, but maybe not in comp. And everybody's got a different reason for valuing that hero. But I do think that something with some natural spell immunity, both bands really hit there from Wildcard. And then
Hmm.
they switch it up. So now probably going to be Parker's Fen, and then Wheelstyle just takes the Shadow Fiend mid. And maybe we see them change their lanes depending on what Wildcard's final choice is. But again, I think Infinity are pretty much happy regardless of their matchups.
Mm-hmm. Durable hero, good damage, strong farming, a little bit of extra lockdown into the mix, so really checking just about every box that was on the list. And well, now if you're wild card, how do you want to approach this? Because this mid lane is, well, now a little bit more clear. Really don't think Infinity are going to do anything crazy now that the spend's been picked up. So what is it that they want to run for Exantic here? I don't know. I feel like you need something that can sort of hold its own, because the TB is going to need time to build up. Okay, yeah, that's definitely a hero that can potentially hold its own, but we'll have to see how that mid matchup plays out.
Yeah, and I was waiting there for a second, seeing if maybe it was going to be the Rubik mid, but no. If they decide to sit with
Hmm.
this Primal Beast, then sure, eventually, once you had hit maybe level 4, I could say that Exanthic is going to look for some divey trample play where he trades out damage effectively into Leo style. But you're melee hero versus Shadow Fiend. He always gets two raises on you. This is where I think Leo style might just look to shut you out of the game. It's a really scary lane that Exantic is just diving headfirst. I'm really surprised they went for this choice, and of course, makes the lineup feel a little bit better. Now you've got somebody for Divide to play with. You've got another initiator, one that isn't bound by gold at all. He just needs levels and then he can start his own fight. But I am deeply concerned about the lane and whether or not he's going to be able to do anything versus the Shadow Fiend. This is one of those games where I would not be surprised if Wildcard, every 2 minutes, we see a support show up mid, just to put a little bit more pressure on that Shadow Fiend. In which case, Genic and Prada have to do that same mirror style of trying to block both Alexo and Boris from making any plays happen. But if they can maintain that and keep the equilibrium going, I feel like Leo style is set up to kind of just win this one out. And I understand why they go for the Primal Beast. They don't want another hard farmer. They don't want to look for, let's say, a Lina or a Quap, because it just wouldn't make sense with the other two cores they've already picked up. But this is a very different direction.
Yeah, but yeah, then we get to the point that you were just saying. You pick up the Exantic Primal Beast so that he doesn't have to farm, so that he doesn't steal from the TB, but that strategy only works if you don't get bodied in the middle lane. If Leo style just shoves him out, then you have a poor Primal Beast who doesn't have the space to catch up anyway and didn't get enough out of the lane to be useful. So a potential risk. If it works out, though, you know, Wildcard could play that efficiency game, but it seems like a big if, at least hypothetically, going into the match.
Yeah, and it's that same concept brought up 2 days ago in that first stage of the bracket, where how comfortable as the team who is coming in as the underdog losing lanes or going for more difficult laning situations, because Infinity are looking to outskill you large in part. It's why they draft the way they want to. How many lanes are you comfortable losing, and will that break your entire lineup? Because with these mismatches, it's always going to be a threat. Where can you expect Xantic to outplay the Shadow Fiend to get something out of the lane to then help you win the game? It's asking quite a lot, but we're going to have to hope that Xantic gives us something competitive here.
Mm-hmm. Really going to be a test of his abilities, and I mean, we know what he's capable of, right? Not just with Wildcard, but with some of those previous teams over in Europe that he's played for. We know that the talent is there, the skill exists, but he's really been put into not the most fun of positions. But if Wildcard want to live to see another day, gotta pull this one out. Down 0-1 in a best-of-3 elimination series. There's no more time to figure it out. They've got to have it now.
And in the meantime, set up really deep ward that Infinity were able to place. Saw both Boris and Devi walking over, so they know it's a full 5. And Anik, does he stick around? Will gets the bounty, and again, doesn't want to skill uplift. Will eat a ton of damage and doesn't make it. Wow.
Well, they get 3 of the 4 bounties, I guess, but you give up first blood, and you gave it to Exantic. So that Primal Beast is that much closer to his bottle right at the very start of the laning stage, and that extra regen might help him on his quest to not let Leo style just run him over.
Yeah, and we'll see, because this lane and this mid matchup is something that Leo style also has to prove why he's Leo style. He has to make sure that this is a winning situation for himself, while he's already putting the pressure onto Exantic. I'm slightly surprised that Exantic decides to go for the uproar level 1, but this should, at the very least, assist him in going for maybe some of those early last hits and denies, even though it might set his timing slightly further back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe having a better chance of holding his own in the last hit war, even if it does mean he doesn't have that pressure. As speaking of pressure, that is a lot being thrown out onto Frank right at the very start of the lane, and trying to punish him while he doesn't have any points up in the Kraken shell. It's not enough to get the kill, but well, you like to see this from Boris, right? Instead of the Riki just being passive until he hits his shard timing, he's going to try to use the Blink Strike as best as he can.
Yeah, I think also clicking on both Genic and Frank and seeing that really, they don't have that much regen coming out. It's where you have 6 armor on the Ricky, you've got 9 armor on the Terrorblade. They just take that trade primarily in the creep wave as well. So when the Tide has to right click you back, he ends up taking that aggro, and then it ends up being an awful trade for the Tide Hunter. One where there wasn't even meta either. It was just casual harass. I think Boris did end up using both his blink strikes, but a very efficient trading tool and easy damage that is not even going to be fixed. The first courier of the game is just bringing more tangos to the Tide. They can make that trade with meta extremely easily at level 2, a situation that I think Frank has to be real careful of, otherwise he will just die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got some tangos and I believe his wand coming out to him, but it's not going to get him back up to full anytime soon, so an interesting choice from him, and the aggression from Wildcard in the early stages should still work out, so not a whole lot lost there. In the meantime, Prada reconnecting here. We did have the pause and, honestly, a couple of players attempt the reconnect with some, early lag. Doesn't seem like it's anything too significant in terms of keeping them out of the game, and we don't have any surprise game updates to mess with us either. So everybody's back in, and we're good to go. Oh,
Love to see it, but yeah, look at that.
Devi. Was able to fall back for now, but
Oh no!
oh, well, he was able to fall back, and then he just kind of walks back up the lane for a second, and Prada takes him down. Soul Rip, only level 1, but it does enough damage.
Yeah, and he's got a 9 stick, just didn't expect that much damage to come through, and the tides are about to shift. Alexo is maybe 1 or 2 range creeps away from hitting his own level 2, and he could maybe look for a return play on the Prada. It's what they're pinging out right now. But with the creep wave coming in, they also don't want to nuke it and then immediately push into this Fen. The tower's going to do that themselves, but they're looking for it, and a lot of damage.
Yeah, Prada is dropping low. Does he Soul Rip himself?
Oh no.
He's holding, he's waiting. Well, it didn't really do what he wanted it to. So, Prada tries to play the waiting game, and it doesn't quite work out. So he does get taken down. Devi finds the kill, and now they want to get more damage onto Parker. They've got the Fade Bolt, but wasn't really going to let them get a kill. So, Alexo decides to save his mana. Prada returns to the lane, and Wildcard were able to get one over on their opponents, though.
And they still want to make an aggressive play, but Parker's got a 7 stick and a Fairy Fire, so could end up being quite the bait with the Soul Rip also there. And I think instead we're just going to be a little bit more chill, even though wasted Celestial Hammer, Parker just able to narrowly walk away off.
Pops the stun, walks away. Meanwhile, back over in the bottom lane, we do see Frank now getting multiple points up in the Kraken Shell, so the initial harassment onto him that really kind of dropped his health low, not going to be quite as feasible anymore. Frank obviously doesn't have much aggressive potential with no point in the gush, but he just wants to sit in this lane, find his farm. If you can't push the Terrorblade out, whatever. Just get what you can, get your levels, and be okay with that. Alexo, though, get himself a little bit too far forward in that top lane, really up at this sort of north side tree line, and, well, Devi couldn't really help him because Devi had been pushed all the way back to his tower.
Yeah, and he does get the tomb kill, so a little bit of gold in his back pocket, but certainly a little unfortunate, even though with how low Devi is, he is still very confident. He drops a salve, though, so he's going to be out of that danger zone, but no, there's just action everywhere.
While this is going on, talked about Frank sort of trying to stabilize in the lane. This is why hold on. Top lane, Parker. Getting into a little bit of trouble. Dropped low, forced into the trees. Can they get vision on him? Alexo wants it, and he's got the Fade Bolt. He just needs to make a connection with the vision, but they're not going to see it in time. Genic now back into the lane, or not back into the lane. He actually rotates over, but he's not going to be able to catch anyone either. But that is kind of leading into the point I was going to make. If the Tide Hunter is stable, if he can just sit there and soak up experience, get his levels, well, the Tiny's going to move.
No, and not just the Tiny moving, I think we should also probably see, as we are, the Ricky move ever so slightly, but Frank's got exactly what he wants. Just some nice creep pulls, just using the damage block and abusing it. Not the most aggressive Tide we've seen. No points up in Gush, but hey, if it works, it works, and they run out of damage from Wildcard. Just maybe knowing the matchup a little bit deeper. And sure, this has resulted in Yuma being pretty ridiculously farmed, but Frank's right there behind him. He really hasn't been able to shut up the Tide any further.
Making an attempt onto Alexo in the top lane. Parker did not initially have enough mana for the Stormhammer, so they did have to delay the push a little bit, but they get in there now. They're looking for some body blocks onto Devi as well, because they know he already used the hammer. But he's sitting on a 12 charge wand. He should be able to get away. Parker, though, doesn't want to let him go. He sets up with the stun. Prada comes in with the level 2 Soul Rip. They get the kill. Xantic is here. What can he get? Genic is dropping low to the trample. Doesn't have enough mana for the toss. It looks like he's just going to be the sacrifice at this point, but Prada walks away, and so does Parker.
If the escape happens and you rotate at, unfortunately, the worst time, because Leo Style now gets a free regen rune, but it could be worse. And you get at least some gold, some XP. Xanthia gets his bottle refilled as well by Devi, who TP's back to the tower, so could be worse. As Leo Style now just forces in the mid wave with the cart. He's looking to pop his regen rune and then get some more damage on this tier 1 mid, even though he is getting set up on right now. But it looks like Wildcard don't want to pull that trigger. They want to instead be a little bit more patient, even though I feel like they really could go for a smoke pretty soon here and then try to shut down that Shadow Fiend. Because now, it looks like it's to use this regen rune in the triangle instead, and it's the farm for free.
Yep, he's just going to clear out those camps. Meanwhile, up top, Devi is trying to get a little aggressive onto Parker here, but that's not doable by himself. At the same time, on the other side, they've caught Yuma. They're going to hit him up with the Avalanche. Raises a little bit out of order, but the damage is still there, but Yuma does pop a point into the Sunder. Here comes the Ravage, though. Still trying to track him down, but Xantic charging his way in, getting onto Leo Style, going to hit him up with the Pulverize. That's enough to get the kill. The Death Requiem, though, is still putting Yuma in an awkward spot, but he should be able to walk his way out of this one, and they just, I guess, didn't expect him to scale up his ult, and a lot of the times the Terrorblade is very much loath to do so, but it's the difference between life and death. He'll put the point in it.
Yeah, and that's why you save a point. That's why you don't get greedy. I think as well, missing the raise from the Shadow Fiend just interrupted a lot of that damage, and then it ended up being way less closer than it probably should have been. But it's plays like that you can start snowballing, and especially catch Leo Style right now, force him into the die, TP die. That's pretty darn awful for him. But that's also where maybe we see Leo Style try to stabilize this game a little bit. He's got max level raises now. He farms the jungle pretty damn fast. Fighting for the rune right now, and let's see it. It's not even here.
Okay, he's going to go for the raises into the Requiem. Not going to get it off, though. Alexo cancels the channel. So now Leo has to try to get away, but the charge is going to catch him. There's going to be the Pulverize again. And he doesn't have any backup. He's just got to try for the Requiem, pop in the raises. It's going to be enough damage, though, as Xantic will fall. So Leo Style is able to win that fight. The problem is, it does come at a cost. Devi jumps in onto Parker in the top lane. Didn't really have any backup, but the Sven's playing on relatively low HP there.
Yep, just gets punished. Still putting a lot of stock into Leo Style, though. Stopping the net worth. Not too far ahead, though, of the Primal Beast. I think, honestly, Xantic's done a pretty fine job, but another power rune goes into his back pocket.
DD rune picked up for him this time, so he's got a little bit more to work with if he does want to take another engagement. Meanwhile, back up top, they're going to try for it. There's going to be the charge. Do they have the Pulverize? Yes, they do. So they are going to hit up Parker, but the TPs are coming in. The stun is there. The God Strength will be deployed, and Leo Style is in. Raise number 1. That was the max range one, so he really can't hit up anymore. But they can focus themselves onto Xantic. That's a nice silence in from Boris, though, and Xantic's going to try to hold his ground. Maybe that wasn't the best choice, all things considered. He might have been able to get away, but well, too late now. Gets taken down. Boris falls as well. Double kill for Leo Style, and the aggression does not pay off that time.
Yeah, using the Shadow Fiend beautifully, just getting him exactly where he needs to, and then I think Wildcard overestimating their amount of magic damage, especially with Parker laning that Stormhammer. Without it, maybe he goes down, but it's just not baited out long enough. Maybe if the Ricky's on top of him and he can get that follow-up silence, we see that kill just seem a little bit more likely, but doesn't happen. And now, well, the TB's still farming bot. Ravage is back up. Can only imagine that Frank is going to look to make those same responses as well, as he definitely can, but Infinity have pulled ahead a little bit here as Regen Rune, Battle in the River, Genic, it looks like he's dead.
Able to get themselves a pretty free one there, so Xantic making up for missing once or twice by finding that pick, but still feels like they're going to need a little bit more at that point. The support kills are great, but you see Xantic a little bit lower on the net worth chart than you would like him to be right now.
Yeah, we see is Primal Beast. Item build, always the same. BKB. Who would have thought? But they
Dagger
smoke
for
and they
Leo.
head towards bottom. The Tide is a big boy. That's a long kill, but if you get him far enough off the wave, I guess they're saying that with the meta committed from Yuma, that might be a kill, but they feel like something's up here.
TPs are coming, though. They need to get this kill quick. They get the silence down. The pulverize will be there as well. Will there be a ravage? Yes, there will, because Leo Style gets in, drops down the Requiem, but they don't kill off Yuma. Yuma's able to get off the Sunder, and now this is just going to turn. Leo Style gets taken down. Pause comes out. With Leo Style, yeah, he was the one who paused it, but it's already too late, and having a bit of an issue there. Says his Dota is freezing, so Genic is going to try to reconnect, but at this point, ET, the fight's already lost. There's really not much more they can do.
You know, damage has been done. They weren't able to get Tomb off. Prada, he's even in the animation of casting a Flesh Golem still right now. It's how fresh that pause ended up being, but no, unfortunate. I think if that Ravage comes out maybe a little bit sooner, it's where that Ricky Cloud just bought enough time. And even though the Ravage connects, just doesn't feel like that damage really sticks. And then your Shadow Fiend dies. And like you were trying to say before, has a Blink Dagger on the SF and tried to connect with the Ravage to do that big play. But then the Sunder comes out and then everybody's just a little bit too healthy. But again, it's a play that I feel like Infinity should have known. You're playing versus a Dawnbreaker. It always catches them off guard. Every team, period. They give one free play over to Devi, and the Dawnbreaker blows the engagement open. And now it's going to be 3-0.
Yeah, and then you start wondering, you know, you felt like it was enough, Blink, Requiem, and Ravage, but they take that fight with Parker on the clear other side of the map still farming, so overestimating their own ability to take that fight as the game will be resumed and Prada will end up dying. Does Genic get away, though? Xantic has 2 seconds for charge. And he's going to go for it, pushing his way forward. Genic gets hit. He does have the Avalanche. Okay. I mean, he uses it, but it's way too late there. And Genic gets taken down. Now over on the other side, Parker's going to die too. Alexo, well, solo kills him. He does have to suicide for it, but the job is done. That's all 5 dead.
Yeah, just clean, fast, efficient. You know, you lose the Rubik, but who cares? And we're getting closer and closer to that 15-minute mark where suddenly this Ricky becomes the problem. Of course, really, the Axe Shard is just the beginning of it. Once you get that level 10 talent to increase the smoke screen radius, as long as a few more points up in that ability period, that is where no team has really had a fine answer versus just yet. It's also where what has been kind of the answer, being the Rubik, the Jakiro, the CM, just doesn't exist in this game. They decided not to go for it. It's where the Undying really can't do very much aside from hope that he's already got a Force Staff in his inventory by the time that Ricky is ready to fight.
And as of right now, he's not really looking that way. He's going for the BKB, which honestly will still very much help him try to avoid that, but we've already seen multiple times in this event, and multiple times today even, well, just what happens. If you get overly reliant on the BKB timings, it is a strength, but comes with some exploitable weaknesses.
It feels maybe slightly awkward right now. Wildcard would like to trade out those towers, but there's just no good time, even though the Ricky is kind of dancing with the Shadow Fiend right now. But it looks like with the Shadow Fiend TPing bottom, that tower trade is more or less guaranteed at this point in Devi. Yep, TP's out. Knows that there's only one way I die here. Gonna sit in Fountain and then hope that his teammates can find a play for him to Solar Guardian out onto, but he might just end up walking mid.
Everybody on the wildcard side are currently hanging out top, looking to just turn this into a tower trade-off and It really should just be a trade. Yuma's going to take the tier 1 top. A couple of heroes on the Infinity side will take the tier 1 bottom. What is going on towards mid? Gennik's been spotted. He's able to try and get away from the first attempt, but Alexo comes into the Fade Bolt, and now things get concerning. 1-for-1 tower trade, whatever. You're probably okay with that. But you lose a hero, and you could potentially lose your tier 1 tower mid. That's where things get kind of awkward, so they're going to try to hold this, but Prada just runs into too many heroes. Xantic takes him down. Frank, he's got enough mana for the Ravage now, but there's no one to back him up, so if he does pop it, it's really not going to do him much good. But here comes Leo Style. They're going to rotate him in. They're looking to turn onto it Xantic. They do get the kill, but Alexo steals the Ravage. Not going to have an immediate opportunity to use it, but he'll hold that in his back pocket.
Yeah, just got a little bit too close to the Tide Hunter, and then the Riki was unable to connect with the smoke screen. Then that Tide cannot Ravage, but just gets a little bit messy, as well as Yuma's meta timing out there, which was unfortunate. Still allowed him to get that mid-tier 1, which Wildcard are going to be very pleased with, but again, no more damage for the Tide Hunter, which is why Xantic goes down. But at the very least, Xantic's still making really great progress towards that BKB. Otherwise, you know, you'd say it's a little bit of a scary situation to be in, but he's honestly not too far away. That Riki shard should be up right now, and yeah, saved up enough gold for it. So this is where Wildcard, how many little plays can you make with this Riki and prove why many people, myself included, think it's quite the busted tech.
He's going to look to make some moves now. Courier, not quite to him just yet, so I don't think they're going to be able to set up onto Leo Style here, but Leo Style technically isn't leaving just yet. Doesn't have that BKB yet either, so you're going to look for him, and he's sticking around. No, he's not. Okay. Senses something's going on. He'll fall back, should stay safe. And I think, yeah, this ward back here, maybe just spotting out that Xantic was kind of rotating his way over, so even if he doesn't see Boris, you can probably guess what's coming.
Yeah, and not just that, but for Infinity, Gennik incredibly close to his Blink Dagger right now, just stacking his triangle for his team, making sure that Parker will be pleased. Stack quota, but yeah, bottom. There you go. There's the setup. It's just 2 heroes, but it's enough, and sure, buys out both of his BKB components, doesn't have it completed, but that's where the Sleeping Dart, it just works, and he's not done yet. I don't know if they have enough damage for Tiny, and yeah, it doesn't seem like it, but backup's on its way.
I might want to clear out of here. That is a very fast Tide Hunter at the last couple seconds of a haste rune, but he is going to be able to avoid that fight. On the other side, though, Parker, well, he's been caught. And this strategy, this is not working out anymore. Parker can't just be left by himself because he isn't surviving. They've killed him 3 times now.
Yeah, and then back bottom. This time, though, Gennik already low is a much easier pick. Did finish off his Blink Dagger, but Infinity are just leaving themselves a little bit too wide open. They place the sentries after the fact that, unfortunately, aren't going to help or save anybody. And now, Boris is almost level 10, where that broken aspect of Riki continues to get more and more terrifying. It's where I think, for Infinity, they really just need to finish these BKBs. Sven's only 1 component away, and then he can disassemble his Echo Saber for his, play for the double BKB timing, try to make a fight happen with that next Ravage, and then they can get the control back and even force into Roche if they take the fight close enough to that Radiant Triangle. But until then, it just feels like they're at the mercy of their opponents. And look mid, is this another pick? It's a Tide Hunter. It's a little bit difficult, but that's always the thought in the back of your mind. Who else is assisting this Riki?
He goes in, he's probably got someone behind him, but well, for now they're able to avoid it. A little bit of a vision war there as Alexo steals the Avalanche, throws it out. Look at the sound as well. That leads into the Pulverize, and Gennik is going to get taken down. And at this point, Infinity, I think you start looking for the team fight, not just for your timing's sake with the BKBs, but just so that you stop getting picked off here. Heroes aren't even really massively isolated. It's just with the Sleep Dart, you can turn a narrow window into a pretty easy kill.
And it's where they want to bring the fight to Yuma. And maybe once Frank has his Blink Dagger, it makes the play even easier for Infinity to make that call with double BKB Blink Dagger on Tide. It could be as simple as that, but they need to punish this window where Yuma doesn't have a BKB to deal with Ravage, where he can just die to all 3 ultimates being cast on him. It's a very long window where Yuma, after the Scotty, of course, he's going to turn the build around for it, but that's another 6,000 gold that he needs in his inventory before he's able to defend himself in any capacity. Until then, he has to wait for Soul Guardian to really bail him out in those situations, but Infinity, slowly but surely, they've still built up. They're even waiting the entire Ograx for Parker so he can keep his Echo Saber, but this is their item timing. This is kind of their moment here. Leostyle's got his BKB too. If there was ever going to be a fight, now is basically it.
His BKB is on its way. Parker just needs a little bit more gold, and then he's got his. The Blink Dagger is delivered to the Tide Hunter, excuse me. There is a blink on the Tiny as well, so... Well, technically we would have been right no matter which way we said it. But, well, when do they look to push? Because now Wildcard are starting to kind of go looking for them to a certain extent. Maybe not looking for the fight, but trying to maintain some degree of vision over their opponents. But Prada able to push in. They pop the dust. The Tricks of the Trade, though, is going to get Boris away initially, but not long term. He is still in some trouble. They did throw down the smoke screens, though, so there was no Requiem. The BKB wasn't popped here either. This fight's getting a little bit weird. Prada and Genic have already gone down, but now Leostyle jumps in. There's going to be the Requiem. It did hit onto Yuma, but he was already backing away, so they haven't canceled out that Sunder threat. That was not the best Sunder, though. In fact, that was a terrible Sunder, all things considered. Yuma goes down, and now they're in trouble. Xantic doesn't have his BKB anymore, so he's stunned up and taken down, and I don't really know what went down there. Yuma maybe lost track of his own levels of health or what, but they are going to be able to clean this up. Should be a full 5-man wipe unless Divide does some dancing. And he's going to get out. Yeah, they don't have any means to cancel it, so it's only 4 dead instead of 5, but still a lost fight, still a tower taken, and not the greatest decisions in the midst of that engagement.
Yeah, just got, I think, a little bit scared there. And I think, like you said, lost HP on the Sunder. It was not pretty. It was not good. But then that was what Infinity were waiting for. They've used the BKBs. They even get to wait out Xantix in its entirety. And then he just simply gets chunked to death by the Sven, who is all physical. As soon as that uproar ends, there's not really that much armor. It's already just a level 1 uproar. So the Sven cleaves through you pretty darn easily. It's also where Yuma was maybe 400 gold away from the Scotty. Now he finishes it up, but still unfortunate he didn't have it in that fight. It certainly would have given Infinity more of a run for their money, but Wildcard basically just played the fight for Infinity. That was not pretty.
Well, as you say, now they've got Scotty. Now they've got an Ags up on the Dawnbreaker, so the tools in the toolbox are a little bit more impressive, and in the aftermath of that fight, Infinity didn't really get to swing into the Roche pit, so you don't have to push into Aegis. That means this next fight is going to be a little bit closer to balanced, but you still have to deal with the BKBs. You have to deal with the fact that Parker got a Blink Dagger up, so Blink Stun, God Strength is going to be right in your face, and here comes the fight. They're going to jump in onto Boris first, looking for that pickoff again. He did get off the smoke screen, but that time it doesn't really matter.
Yep, too quick. And now Roche is maybe not the most immediate objective that they're going to want. They're still looking for picks and Devi. Well, he's not looking for him. He's looking for the backline, and he found Alexo. Parker just waited for the jump. The patience pays off. The Rubik has to show to just do anything for Devi. Raze is on point as well, and now, well, they are going to swing for Roche.
Yep. This time around, there's not a hell of a lot that Wildcard can do to stop it. In fact, you see Yuma TP himself back to mid, just kind of recognizing, yeah, we messed up. We got to let this one go. Roshan taken. Aegis. Anybody? There you go. The Leo style will take it. They left it on the ground for a few seconds, but the reason why is because Parker is looking for the fight. They spotted Xantic. They're going to stun up the Primal Beast multiple times. Now the toss. The BKB comes in, but by this point, I don't know about this one. The reinforcements are rushing their way over. They will be here in time to make sure Xantic doesn't die, but they weren't really able to mount any sort of effective comeback here, and now Parker just goes back in, blinks forward, stuns Alexo, they'll take him down, and well, I guess if you're Wildcard, you effectively trade Exantic for the Rubik, as Alexo dies instead, but they TP'd a lot of heroes over to try and make that defense. So now, Infinity kind of know wherever we want to go on the map, we will have the advantage.
Yeah, it's where I think Yuma needs to make a break towards top. He needs this BKB, so that way he can actually show his face on the same side of the map as that Tide Hunter, but they're just not letting him farm. And again, initiation, they go in. He's going to try to save him, and they will give him the space and the respect, but okay, stuns the Sven, but it doesn't matter. The Tide.
There's the Ravage. That's perfect. That is the absolute textbook definition of how you kite that out. They avoid the Sunder, they avoid the Solar Guardian, and I mean, at that point, if you're Wildcard, there isn't anything more to do. That was your best plan, and couldn't make it work.
Yeah, just too quick with that smoke out of bottom. And as soon as they catch this Wildcard, they need to get back onto these lanes faster. And Exantic, he is trying to go, but right now they're unfortunately getting caught in between deciding whether they want to make those team fights happen. And Boris, okay, dancing in the mid lane, gonna kill a courier too. Kills an entire force staff, which honestly pretty great, but still doesn't protect his mid tower. Eventually, that bottom wave is gonna push in, and Boris still playing the danger zone here, and looks like he's not gonna get clipped with the dust from Prada, but man, Ricky players.
They're built different, man. They just don't really seem to have any regard for their own safety, but I mean, he got away with it. He's able to create a distraction. They do still lose the tier 2 tower, so it's not perfect, but I don't think there was a world where Boris alone was going to save that tower anyway. Now Frank will swing control of this outpost, just try and really close the map as much as they can, but well, back over to Yuma. They're smoking up here, but this is still going to cut into his farming time, and he still doesn't have BKB, so this is a fight that they now really have to win, otherwise they're going to end up wasting quite a bit of time. And, well, Exantic is already forced to charge out of the fight. Yuma's trying to get in, though, and they are hitting up Genic, but they haven't killed him off yet. They will get the telekinesis, and that should be enough. So they get the Tiny, but if they go much further forward, they could be running into a little bit of a trap, and there's going to be the play. Yuma in some trouble. Solar Guardian will not be enough to save him. They really should have just been happy with the one, and now Devi is forced into this fight. The Solar Guardian still comes through, but he's able to walk away. He's getting underneath the tower, but that's only because they're chasing an easier target in Alexo.
Yeah, and okay. Blink's behind the tower. And during all this, it's unfortunate. I think this tower might die before backdoor comes back in, just barely, and okay, backdoor does come through. But something that Infinity need to be a little bit better at is just making sure these creep waves survive long enough. This is the second time that Wildcard, despite taking heavy casualties, are able to get onto those creep waves just a little bit quicker than I think Infinity are happy with, as, well, this time around Boris might not make it out. Just surrounded all sides, all 5 heroes, but the more problematic aspect of that last team fight is that was a cheap kill onto Yuma. They still have Ravage. They're going to have the Requiem up in 50 along with all their BKBs. I still think Wildcard should just dodge, just get away. They haven't really been able to get rid of any of the vision, though, from Infinity. They've been spending so much time trying to mount a defense versus these smokes and these fights that Infinity are bringing to them that it might be time to just establish yourselves on a high ground. Just place the ward sentry, keep your opponents away from you, and then you get a clean reaction. Especially once Yuma has that BKB, Yuma can react to every spell in this game. It's where a perfect Blink Ravage is the only thing that really catches him off guard at that point, but I just think you need to just set yourself up for some more success here. It's just reactions that are getting punished way too easily.
And they are sending him up top. He should be able to finish off that BKB before anybody gets to him, but well, the rotation is coming. They're going to jump onto Devi instead. Parker able to find the initiation and the kill.
Yeah, ping the ward. That's good. The only good thing about that, but at least their other waves are also pushing in, and it looks like Yuma should get out of top, but 10 seconds on his TP. This would be a real sad way to die, and the smoke will break.
They know.
Oh, no.
1 second left. Do they spot him? Yes, they do. And now Yuma, well, buy your last component. Yeah. He will die, but the BKB is finally acquired.
Still, just unfortunate. What a timing on the TP. And then they got what they wanted, so they just go immediately out onto the other waves, as well as no better way for Leostar to reveal that Arcane Blank. Just immediately getting a kill, getting the quick CD on Requiem as well. It's brutal.
Playing a real solid game here on the side of Infinity, but if you're Wildcard, you still know you've got a path into this, right? You've got the Terrorblade, he's got a BKB now, so you know you can, in theory, take these fights. Just going to come down to the execution and maybe a pick onto Parker. Boris is thinking about it. It's going to be the dart. Do they rush TPs over? Can they bring anyone? There's going to be the telekinesis, but yeah, the TP comes in and Xantic says, I do not want to be here. Charges away, TP's out. They might have to leave Alexo behind, but yeah, at least you don't lose a core. Then again, ET, if Xantic didn't want to be in that fight, they didn't have to make that initiation in the first place.
Yeah, they're still getting the short end of the stick. At least they got God Strength, and that was something that Parker consciously chose to do to make that kill onto the Rubik a little bit faster, but that's where these kills on the side lanes just shouldn't be allowed, and Devi, he needs help, the SF is coming, he needs a Force Staff, he needs a friend, but I don't know. The Axshard is doing a good job of delaying this kill out, but can they make a play into Leo? Nice sleep dart. With the Scotty, he might be trapped.
He's not able to get out. The Avalanche can't protect him, so... Okay. Yuma finally starting to feel a bit more confident, pushing his way forward. Not sure they'll see Genic, but over on the other side, they did get vision on Prada. The Undying is in a little bit of trouble, but on the back line, there's going to be the jump in. Parker tries to get the kill by himself, but he needs help. There's going to be Frank, though, coming in. Ravage deployed, hitting up onto 3. Alexo dropping low, not dead yet, though, but they will be able to take him down. They will be able to get to Vi as well, but this fight's getting complicated. Parker is now getting hit up by Yuma. I don't think he makes it out of this one. He's trying with the armor and the move speed, but it won't be enough, so... They find some good kills in the secondary half of that engagement, ET, but the two main cores go down, the Ravage gets deployed, and Wildcard are still standing.
Yeah, and then Godstrength comes back up off CD. The Infinity just did everything wrong. They took a fight without their Shadow Fiend. They used pretty much all of their team fight abilities on heroes that, sure, are still important, but are the supporting cast for Wildcard, and Yuma gets to walk all over a fight. He gets, I think, all in all, probably 3,000 or 4,000 gold off of that engagement. Genic, you're kind of crazy, kind of out of pocket for that one, but at least he knows that there's no Ricky around that could sleep dart and break his TP. But Genic is also the one that baited his SF into dying last time, so maybe a slight reset here from Infinity if they want to keep that easy victory, because one more bad team fight like that, well, if Yuma got 3,000 gold from the last engagement, now that Roche is going to be under threat, his game could flip and Yuma could just do it by himself.
Yeah, they are getting to that point where the Terrorblade's just unbelievably strong, or getting to that point as... Oh, there's Sal. Pops the BKB. Xantic is going to really get punished for that one. There's that Arcane Blink really coming into effect. He can solo ult. You know, it's still on a little bit of a cooldown, but not a back-breaking one, especially with Xantic now dead for 50 seconds with no buyback.
Yeah, just thought he was a scarier hero with that lane ward, but wasn't too scary for Leo. Leo was just very patient. And Infinity are still in the driver's seat. They still got a lot to play for. Have this this gem still picked up for Frank as well, so the vision game is still very difficult to maintain. It's why they've pretty much given up on these big wards on the high ground. Instead, they're just looking for lane wards so that maybe they can find a pick, but also just keep it away from those big avenues. Otherwise, it most likely does just get dewarded. But now, it's a matter of who's set up better for Roche. Infinity, with all this control, certainly feel like they're the one in the driver's seat as Alexo. Toss back. Well, can't do much about that, but he'll have to buy back if he wants to fight for this Roche.
40 seconds on his respawn if he doesn't buy back. We're not seeing Infinity just kind of rushing their way over to it, though, and... did they actually scout that it's alive? Because they might not know.
No, they definitely don't, and they are getting towers instead, but I feel like this is a type of rotation where maybe it's up to Prada, and yeah, it's up to Prada. Everybody else wants the farm instead, but they can just get this started.
Make make their way in. Aegis and a Shard both available. The scan, though, will be deployed by Wildcard, but now... do they want to do it? Could they even get there in time at this point? It's feeling like the answer to that question is no. Really on both counts.
And I do wonder who takes the Ag Shard. Probably should be the Shadow Fiend, but Parker's is also quite good, and I think... okay, yeah, Parker just eats it. At least it looked like he wanted it, you know. Everybody wants the Ag Shard, but says, no, you have to buy your own. I get mine for free. I'm Parker.
Yeah, in fairness, Parker's maybe has a bit of a wider effect for the whole team, whereas Leo Style is just kind of for him, but... meh. We'll see. In the meantime, Leo Style did get his hands on an E-Blade here, which... honestly, it makes this combo significantly kind of more convoluted. If he does want the full thing for the Requiem, I suppose he could just blink in for the Requiem and then maybe E-Blade whoever's alive afterwards, just bump up your raise damage, but... the fact remains, it is not just a damage item, it is also something that's gonna mess with the TB, right? If you hit him with the E-Blade and take away his ability to right-click for a few seconds, it could open up a window as Boris, yeah, tries to throw down the smoke screen to slow it up, but Yannick is faster on the draw, gets the blink, gets the toss back, and there's no buyback on that Ricky, so they're gonna push for a full lane of racks here.
Yeah, Genic was just way too quick with it, and you see the extremely aggressive sentry placement there, but now you don't have to deal with the annoyance that Ricky would cause and get to use the tail end of your God Strength here. It is on CD now, so might force Parker to be slightly more defensive, but at the same time, everybody's back in the base. They haven't seen Yuma just yet, but once they know he's in there, then they get to break away towards mid and bottom, and oh, Genic again!
They got the toss back. That's Alexo taken down. He has his buyback, though, and he will pop it immediately. Now Yuma, force-staffed onto the front line. Trying to get onto Prada. Prada, though, able to use the totem to force himself back. It's going to be a little bit of a reset. There was a buyback from the Tiny as well, but Genic had the TP to the outpost in the north, so he's walking his ass down here, but he's going to be able to regroup. Rejoins his team. Wildcard, this is very risky to go for the smoke, but they're hoping to catch this lineup sort of spread out, and if they have the damage, these are good targets, but can they actually find the kills? They're going to try. They've got the break onto the Tidehunter, so he is not really all that tanky, but they still can't kill him. There's going to be the Ravage hitting onto everyone other than Yuma, but Frank does still go down, but now Parker's into the fight. Requiem, channeled out, going to connect onto multiple heroes. They're dropping everybody, and that fight is just straight up done.
Oh, it's too much damage, and even though the Ravage is wasted, it still is enough to force the supports into a pretty awful position as Alexo, well, no talks back target, but Parker's coming as well, and I think with this, I think we're running out of game here. Yeah, the all chat, it's powerful.
Oh, the all chat combined with the BKB just to make sure he chases Alexo. Just absolutely insane, but they get the kill. They stagger the respawns. Xantic is in now, but he had to pop his BKB as well, so the defense just doesn't have any teeth to it. It's a paper tiger here for Wildcard, and that they could just go for it, right? 35 seconds for the TB, and they're starting to realize, hey, there's no buyback here. There will be in just a little bit, though. 170 gold, but they need to do something. They need to either get some gold or buy more time, but look at Genic just acting as a distraction. Leo Style, okay, gonna push in. They get the kill on the Boris. Now they're gonna get Xantic, and this is what they couldn't afford. They wanted to buy time, but that's really not buying time. That's just having heroes die in very awkward positions. And at this point, I mean, even if the TB comes back up, is it gonna be enough? Because he'll be fighting basically alone. Devi is desperately trying to get back into the fountain, and he does manage to make it. But there's going to be the tossback. Yuma's in trouble, has to activate his BKB. His meta is still on cooldown, though, for 5 more seconds. And the Ancient's been exposed. The tier 4s have gone down. Can they close this out? Infinity walking that knife's edge right now. They want to try and find further picks, but they can't go far enough forward. Otherwise, they give up their opportunity to... oh my god, Genic. Gets off the Avalanche, gets off the toss. They get off the Requiem. Yuma's dropped down. Yuma's taken out, and that's it. It's done. I don't think that they can hold without that Terrorblade. They don't even get the Parker kill either. The Ancient is still dropping, and well, credit to Wildcard. They refuse to give in until the last second, but there's just not enough. Frank blinks into the fountain. He'll drop down the Ravage. They take Alexo out. And that's going to be it.
Oh, and they don't want it. They don't want to call it stone. There you go.
Okay.
There you go. After getting fountain farmed for what feels like a full minute, the longest minute for Wildcard, they bow out of BTS Pro Series to honestly a really clean, a really nice 2-0 from Infinity, but also just kind of worked him at the end there. There's not much to say. There's not many plays you could have made there with Wildcard.
I mean, they were holding out hope, right? Really just playing it out for as long as they possibly could, but that is the problem with this lineup at a certain point. They basically say we're all in on Yuma, which, I mean, most of the time that's not a bad strategy, but in this circumstance with the TB, once he's out of the picture, no one else even has a hope of stepping up, right? Xantic on the Primal can't do the damage, and Dawnbreaker built more for utility, so there's no damage coming out from Devi either.
Yeah, it's a combination of problems, and I think Wildcard just choosing to stubbornly take fights when they were just not ready. If Yuma gets another 5 minutes, this game probably looks very different. But also, Parker never skips a beat. He's honestly neck and neck CS-wise with Yuma, but there's just nothing you can do once that BKB is there. Once you're so big that even if you get sundered, you pop Satanic and you're just right back up to full. You need the rest of the lineup to make that space. And I think that's also where Xantic just wasn't able to carry enough of this game, even though he's the beast. He's got the Blink Dagger. He's got the Ag Shard. It should be enough, but it just isn't. And I think just too many plays in between. The Ricky didn't really get to come into full force either. It's where I think, again, wasn't nearly as set up as it was in the TSM series. Just not that much counterplay and not too many picks that they could find in the meantime. But hey, they had a pretty good run, and I think coming into this tournament with not a roster, then kind of having a roster, then who's going to be on their roster, there's still much more for Wildcard to figure out before the DPC starts.
Yeah, because we did point out all the way back in the Game 1 draft here, Wildcard haven't registered what their roster is going to look like just yet. So it could be this group of 5, could be something else, but they will keep us guessing for now, and still a respectable run, if nothing else. Being one of the first 2 out in Phase 3 is unfortunate, but they still showed us enough where you're feeling confident. Is Wildcard ready to take on the world? Maybe not. Maybe there's still some improvements there, but they should still at least be strong enough to stay competitive in their region and in their division.
Yeah, and I don't think we're getting an interview, so this is it. This is it for us, Kmart.
Mm-hmm. This is our final day here. We are going to be handing things off to our Cryptic and Neff to take you the rest of the way through. So, ET, well, let's see. In terms of closing thoughts here, we got to see all of the teams here in Phase 3 at least once. So, through these first couple of days, what surprised or disappointed you the most out of what we got to see?
I think really just the advent of Chikiro, the turnaround of Hoodwink, things getting slowly but surely figured out. Just the Dota in general has been really fun. And I think really looking for that top spot, and of course, a lot more Dota to be played, got to pay such close attention to TSM. I think even though it was a hard series, and of course, 5-Rat, they go out a little bit earlier here. I think that was simply the best Dota we've seen so far in the tournament. It's where every single move was so intelligent. Their drafts were so great. And to go back to that Moon Meander interview, they've got more, hiding somewhere, especially in regards to their roster. So I think that's the team to look out, and probably the ones that have the most news, perhaps, coming into that early DPC start. But that's where you also can't afford to really miss any other day of this tournament, because as soon as this tournament is over, not even as soon as the tournament is close to being over, those roster locks come through. Everything is going to be rock solid for that early December or late December, early January start for Dota 2. And then we're just got a clean ride for the next 2 months.
Mm-hmm. It is going to be some interesting stuff. And yeah, I think technically the rest of this event does go past the roster lock date, right? I think we end on the 10th and the lock is on the 9th. So by that point, you'll know exactly what these teams are going to look like. But we will unfortunately not be the ones who get to call those games because we do have to give our Cryptic and Neff something. Although, if the schedule is right, that means Neff now casts the Nouns games, which is always hilarious. I don't know, maybe he just puts a mask on and pretends that he's not himself for that, just so there's no bias. But those will be the matchups for tomorrow for you folks. Actually, you know what? We'll just show you. We got the brackets up here. Why the hell not? So swing it on over. Here is what it looks like right now. Tomorrow afternoon, we will have TSM versus Thunder Awaken, and then Evil Geniuses versus Nouns. So yeah, it'll be some good stuff. Definitely games that you don't want to miss, especially based on the performances we saw from those teams in round one. So some exciting stuff to play for there, and well, I don't want to overhype the upper bracket because lower bracket is still going to be interesting too. Beast Coast and Infinity definitely squads that you don't want to be meeting in an elimination series, especially after what they put forward here today, ET.
No, definitely not. But also, can't forget, Live Rat, Die
Wait,
Hard.
wait, wait, wait. You're not on
You
camera. There
gotta,
we go.
you gotta defend the rats. You gotta look out for them. The boys, I mean, it speaks for itself. You can't lose sight of him.
Well, you know, that speech would have been a little bit better if they hadn't been eliminated today. But listen, the support's still there. We love you, Five Rat, and obviously not the greatest circumstances to be eliminated in with these shenanigans, but what can you do? But that is going to do it for us. Again, it'll be our Cryptic and Neff taking over from here on out, so hope you enjoy their casting. Thank you all so much for watching with us and following through the first couple of days, and we will see you later. Enjoy the rest of your evening.